All right, welcome to the JBJ Management Podcast. I'm Willis Johnson, and today, KG, you're here. He is our guest. You're a rock star in this world these days, so
Trying to be like you when I grow up.
whatever. I'm glad that we're able to have our path cross.
Sure.
Let's just talk a little bit about COSIGN and what that means and where that came from. What's your vision? What's your direction?
Man, that's a great question. So, short story where the name came from. When I decided to start a media company, I was trying to find a name that was powerful enough to resonate with people, but it wasn't just too simple and plain to where it can get lost. And how I was able to start COSIGN was I went to Afghanistan for 2 years as a civilian contractor. I was an engineer technician installing GPS system military vehicles during, the war, and I saved up $50,000 to come home to launch COSIGN. And when I came back, my sister, she's older than me, she realized I had a little money, and she asked me if I could co-sign on a car for her. And and it hit me like the importance of what a co-sign could do. Like I could help her get a car, but she could also, ruin my credit.
She's got to do what she's got to do.
She has to do what she has to do. So that's where the name came from. I wanted to be able to co-sign for entrepreneurs, creatives, executives, because I realized that the right co-sign can get you into some really great doors and could, really impact your business if the right person stand behind you and vouches for you. So that's the whole premise of our media company, of our magazine, is to co-sign, people, places, and things, so that way our community knows that it's been vetted and it's not just, something out there that they'll take your money or that they're going to give you a bad service or a bad product.
How do you vet?
So from us, it's one, either we try the product or service ourselves, right? We have a team, so they may go somewhere, attend it, and be like, okay, this spot was really nice. They had great food. The service was great. Let's write a story on them. Or somebody who we trust, who we've interviewed before, we kind of ask them, the last question our interview is, who do you co-sign, right? So if we trust you, we're going to put it within our warehouse to, trust who you co-sign as well. So it's almost like a referral system, right? So you kind of pay it forward.
Years ago, when I was on the radio, we used to do, we would do an endorsement for a specific car.
Right.
And there's a guy named Mr. Bankston, black guy. What I liked about him was his culture, his history. He was an orphan who became a millionaire. And so he had a background of, I don't know if I quite trust anybody, because when you've been an orphan, that means somebody has let you down. Your parents from day one have let you down. So to see him grow here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think he ended up with maybe 6 or 7 dealerships. They were based in Louisville, and then they came downtown. He and I had I don't know, maybe just a trust of each other.
Right.
So then he said, well, I want you, in order for you to endorse my car, you got to drive my car. Right. So every year I changed out. I was driving a different car. So in order for me to say that car was good, I had to know about it. The first car he gave me, KG, was a car called a Roadmaster. I don't know if any of y'all know anything about a Roadmaster. When you just in your private time, Google it. It's one of the finest cars ever built by anybody. Now it ain't pretty. It's big. Smooth? It's big. Okay. It's cumbersome, but it holds the road, and that's why they call it a Roadmaster. Okay. But he started me out on that car so that we could eventually get to going through all of the Lincoln products. And so before we got to, what's the big Lincoln SUV that everybody would drive back in the day?
Navigator. Yeah.
There you go. Navigator, yeah. Before I got to the Navigator, I had to do the Roadmaster. Okay. I say all of that to say, because in order to co-sign, you got to spend some time with somebody. That's quite an accomplishment in itself. So when you co-sign on these businesses, how much time have you spent with them?
At the beginning, I'm not going to lie, I was going everywhere. I was going to every event, every business, because I wanted to build that reputation and that trust.
Right.
So I was doing it all until I got to a point to where, okay, there's perks in being able to, really be able to get in front of these businesses. So we built our team so that way they can take advantage of these perks. There might be an event they want to go to learn from. So I would send them so that way they can get that experience and they kind of report back, hey, was the event nice? Was it smooth? Were the people that treat the guests well? If you went to, a restaurant, the same thing. So at the beginning it was all me, but now that I have a team, it's opportunities for me to trust into them to trust who they co-sign. So essentially we do have to actually kind of like touch it, feel it to make sure that we can co-sign it.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you've been.
Right, correct, yeah.
It means that one of your team members.
For sure.
So now with that said, how important is it that your team member believes in your culture and what you believe in?
Oh, it's so important. And it's, it's harsh to say, but they wouldn't be on the team, right? Because if they don't believe in the culture and what we're building at COSIGN and paying it forward, then it isn't the right fit for them, right? So I've worked with people, and you're an entrepreneur, you understand how it goes. You work with people, you have great hopes for them and realize that, okay, they're a great worker, but maybe they're not a great fit for your culture and your organization. And it's okay to part ways. It's okay to do your own thing. It's not personal, it's business. So business can be personal, but sometimes you have to just separate and find people that actually fit. And that way, when they are in the room representing your brand, they're going to represent it just like you would.
So your team members know, if I don't believe in what KG believes in, there's no sense in me being here.
For sure. We may have some things to, in personal lives, for example, like, we have a lot of different cultures, right? So we have on our team, I'm Panamanian, Afro-Latino. We have, Mexicans, we have Dominicans, people from El Salvador, all over the world, right? But at our core, our beliefs and what we're doing at COSIGN all aligns. And that's why we were able to work together. That's why we're able to pick up slack. If I'm unable to do something, we have people like, hey, I'll step in and do it. And if I'm out the country, which I've been multiple times, they'll talk amongst themselves to figure out, okay, who's going to take lead on this project or out in the studio while KG is gone and know how it's going to get done.
Talk to me about La Vida.
So the original idea came a while ago because at the time I really didn't see any platforms for Latinos. But then I didn't have the infrastructure or team to be able to build it and manage and sustain it. So then probably about a year and a half ago, there's this lady, she's on our team now. She's my partner and creative director, Paloma. She hired me first to do her podcast. I was producing her podcast. And, I was loving the interview she was doing. She's young. She had a lot of hustle. She had a lot of grit. She was eager to learn. So I was like, okay, I feel like this would be a great time to bring back La Vida because she understands the culture. She's bilingual. And she understands what it takes to build a brand because by heart, she's an influencer and has amassed a huge following on herself. So just knowing what she's been able to do there in a podcast that I produced for her, and I seen she's been able to do interviews, I realized that she could do that same thing for La Vida COSIGN and run it side by side with the same things we're doing with COSIGN Magazine. So we've been doing La Vida probably about a year and a half now consistently. Even with our awards programming now, we built out more categories, highlighting Latino entrepreneurs, creatives, and executives. Because as you can tell in the market, Latinos are growing in the marketplace on TV, online. The market share, how much they spend, is right up there with African Americans as well. And me growing up, my parents bought Latino products. We grew up on Goya. We grew up on the parties, the culture. I went to Panama every summer, so I ate the food. I ate arroz con pollo every week. So my friends would come, my black friends would come, like, what are y'all eating? And I'm like, this is just what I know. This is what I know. So it's been interesting growing up because it was like, man, I'm black, but I'm Latino. But a lot of times people didn't understand that, especially in Texas, because Texas is really built like, on the Mexican demographic. So there's a whole Caribbean Latino demographic that, there's really out there that we want to shine light on as well.
How does this current culture in Washington, D.C. affect what you do, and how do you see that playing out over the next 2 or 3 years?
It's crazy. I was on a call today, a partnership call for our COSIGN Awards with a luxury dealership, and it didn't even really hit my mind until I got on the call, and they were like, man, we really want to do it, and we think we're going to do it. Let's just give it a month because these luxury vehicles, our parts come from overseas. So right now, when people are buying our cars, they're wondering, okay, if this something happens to my car, are y'all going to be able to get the part, and is it going to be at the rate it is now? And that really didn't hit me. So I'm like, okay, it's more than just, the DEI that I've been facing as far as, companies, going away with their multicultural programs. Now I have to look deeper into like our partners. Okay, where are they getting their products from, and how is that going to affect their bottom line to where they're going to cut their budgets to be able to support?
Because tariffs do matter.
They do. Yeah, they definitely do. So that's how we've been facing it, head on. And for us, how we've been able to pivot is right now is just, putting a lot more emphasis on, growing our revenue in ways that we can control, right? We can control, our studio space, who books that. We can control on the output. We can control on the offers we provide. Our partnerships may decline, but the partners we do have, how can we provide more value so when they're going into these meetings and fighting for a cosign, they understand that, hey, we may not have the same budget, or if we do have the same budget, we know investing in cosign is going to be a great investment because they're going to go above and beyond rather than a new company investing in what they're doing.
KG, do you see yourself as there's this new platform that exists now? I'll date myself.
Okay.
In 1949, I wasn't born. Let me be clear. But in 1949, the first black radio station was created in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
Not black owned, but it was for black people. And that was KDIA, and on that radio station, you had Bobby Bland and B.B. King and a number of other guys. And so there was a guy by the name of Chuck Smith. He did the 7 to midnight shift. They called him the Nighthawk. He moved from Memphis to Dallas to become the program manager for KKDA AM radio. He hired a guy by the name of Tom Joyner. And the rest is history. In my opinion, Joyner is the godfather of black radio. He was the guy who set the tone. He set the standard. I had the privilege of being hired by Joyner 6 years after he got here and then replacing him to do that morning show. But back then, black radio was the standard. It was the thing you did. If you moved, as soon as you got in that I don't care what town it was, whether it was big town, little town, you're looking for that black radio station. You're looking to see where you can get your hair done, and you're looking for the black church. That's gone.
It is.
Fine, adios, never coming back. Have you created a new platform that creates this opportunity to collaborate and influence?
So we have different kind of series that we do. For example, we have one series called 1,000 Cosigns, which we're going to reduce now to 100 cosigns just for this awards programming. And with that, that's our main goal, right, is to highlight 100 Dallas-based people, places, and services, right? Because a lot of that gets lost, right? Of course, you have TikTok, which is a search engine. You have YouTube, which is a search engine. All these social media platforms are search engines, but it's very brief. It's 60 seconds. This. That's it. Nobody's really going into detail anymore. Nobody's really sharing those stories of, of course, this may be a good piece of cake from this bakery, right? But what did it take to make that bakery who it is, right? That story behind it is why people support businesses for long periods of time and why it becomes a cult following, right? And that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we're doing at COSIGN, right? Is diving deeper into the story to highlight these businesses and highlighting their stories. Because once you know somebody's story, you're locked in for life. You know why you want to support them. It's not just a fad and it goes away.
I'm curious about the microwave kind of culture,
right,
as opposed to the slow bake
for sure
oven kind of the way you told that story. Because again, I go back in the day. See, Roscoe's. When you go to L.A.,
you go to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle.
It's a history. I mean, there are 5 of them. I always go to the one on Gower.
Okay.
in Hollywood because that's where all of the superstars go. That's just where they hang out. But if you went to New York, you could go to Sylvia's, or if you went to, I mean,
Right.
there are a number of cities that you go to. In Dallas, it used to be Clara's Kitchen back in the day on Exposition, right in front of Fair Park. Well, now, where is it?
I was just going to ask you that. So I've been here a little over a decade. So I've seen different, things come and go. But for somebody who's been here, what would you say someplace like when people ask you when they come to the city, where do you tell them to go?
Yeah, that's a good point. I tell them to go Two Partners. Okay. It's got the best barbecue.
Two Partners?
Two Partners. It's
Okay.
on Robert B. Cullen. But I also like, there's a place called Off the Bone.
I've been Off the Bone.
But those days of those kinds of places appear to be not what they used to be. They're not long standing. Right. They don't. And so where are we going with this long term? How do we sustain our community, our businesses, the entrepreneurship within our culture?
You know what I realized to talk about the first part as well is what I realized too are like, for example, these restaurants, they're family owned, and the parents that created it and built it, the kids don't want to do that anymore. They want to do something else. They want to do something fun and something nice, or they don't want to work as hard in the family business.
Right.
Even though that that it's profitable, it's running, they want to do something else, and that's where you lose the quality, the customer service, the people, the culture behind it, because what we came there for, we knew it for, is no longer there. So we have to get back to keeping that culture and keeping it instilled, even if our kids don't want to take it over. Train our employees to have that same love and feel for the business, so that way, when the owners, move on, or if they want to sell it, or if they pass away, there's people that's next in line that are going to give that same feel to it. Because I think, if I'm not wrong, I want to say something like with Sweet Georgia Browns, like the kids took over it, and like Sweet Georgia Browns was somewhere like people would want to go to. Okay, I'm going to Sweet Georgia Browns on Sunday,
Yeah, you can see that food swimming in grease as soon as you walk in there. Yeah, no, but I went there on a regular basis. Yeah, that's true.
You went there.
That's true.
But now I've been hearing talk like it's not the same. So it's like, okay. And then when somebody else told me like, yeah, the original owners, they passed down their kids. So when I realized that, it's like, man, like we have to keep it within our own community. Like figure out what's the next line, who's up next, and how can we train them to put the same love and feel that we put into it. So that's the first problem that I've seen, when it comes to these businesses over time, and why it's been hard to sustain.
My son called me earlier. He was at Catfish Floyd because he's 42 now. Since he was, 8, he's been going to Catfish Floyd. Mr. Floyd Bean, who passed away in 2017, Mr. Bean had this tartar sauce. He had this tartar sauce that is like no other. And I always kept telling him, Mr. Bean, one day you ain't going to be here. What are we going to do about that tartar sauce? Well, he did. He passed it on to his daughter. I still love Catfish Floyd, but now you got to go through drive-through, get a chance to go in and socialize and hang out. It's not quite what it used to be. And that's to your point. I don't know if how do we pass it on to 2 and 3 generations? We have a client here at JBJ Management. That firm is called H.J. Russell Construction. They're out of Atlanta. They started in 1952 with Mr. H.J. Russell. He passed away in 2014, but he had already passed it on to his son, Michael, who now has his oldest son being trained to take over. It's the largest, most profitable construction firm, African American, in the country. It's been around since 1952. But there's just not enough of them, KG. How do we set the tone for creating stability within our business community?
I think it's knowingly supporting our own, right? A lot of times we support who people prefer who might not be, based of our community, right? And we do that because sometimes people think, okay, they may be more established, but how do we get that opportunity? Somebody has to give us that opportunity, right? So I feel like everybody should be responsible, which we can all start today, be responsible of giving one person in our community an opportunity, right? And then on the other end, as a business owner, like that construction company, they have to do great business. We can't be giving opportunities and
fail
or
Agreed.
doing a subpar job, because now you're working against what we're trying to build.
What's next for COSIGN, say in the next 5-10 years?
So at COSIGN right now, we're building this ecosystem. It's a media network partnered with an entrepreneur ecosystem. We've served thousands of entrepreneurs through our programs, through our interviews, and if you think about our content, hundreds of thousands, even reached millions, right? But everything is changing. AI is changing everything, technology.
Yep.
So starting off as a magazine, of course, you can't sustain as that. So now we have our 2,500 square foot media studio and event space. We're building that out to be a media network, right? So if you look at the larger companies who've been able to sustain, they have a lot of different opportunities for their advertisers, right? So for example, if you're trying to reach the Black demographic, 18 to 35, we'll have a podcast that targets that. If you're trying to reach the Latino demographic, we have La Vida COSIGN. If you're trying to reach the general market in, the high upper echelon, talk about finances, then we're going to build a show or a podcast that reaches that. But it's all along the COSIGN ethos. So by having that media network, now we're able to give our advertisers a lot more market share than just advertising in a print magazine or on social media. If you combine all these channels and all these views and all these eyeballs, it goes for a lot more, and I'm able to feed a lot more people in the community opposed to just one platform and our small team. So by doing that, I've watched, Complex, I've watched Black Enterprise, I watched Vice, I watched Forbes, and that's kind of the model everybody's transitioned to, right? And they build in-person experiences because community is everything. So we could bring people together in person, COSIGN Awards, and online with multiple channels to fit your interests. Then we have the audience, the eyeballs, the consumer. Now we put advertisers against that, and we're guaranteed to win. So that's the next 5 to 10 years, is to build out the largest media network in Dallas, right? So the ones that are here, I won't say their names, but the ones that are here, right, they stay in print. They're huge in print. Like, I even go to their events, in the in-person events, right? But they're missing so much opportunity when it comes to digital. So much opportunity. Sports is huge right now. NIL, how come, nobody in Dallas really is investing in those platforms? So we want to be able to build multiple platforms under COSIGN umbrella to reach any audience, so that way we can, make sure our advertisers are getting the most for their dollars. Because, we're going against Google, we're going against Facebook, Instagram. So we have to be able to compete with attention.
I'm excited for your creativity and your entrepreneurship. My fingers are crossed for it and the best for you. I really appreciate you taking the time today to be with us.
Appreciate you having me.
All right. That is the JBJ Management Podcast for today. I'm Willis Johnson.